Hi everyone, I'm Lim Wei, and thank you for joining me for this Executive Planning Day presentation. Today, I'll be covering these four interconnected economic issues that are critical for organization strategy in 2025. Now, understanding macroeconomics indicators helps organization respond to market shift. Let's look at three key indicators: GDP, inflations, and unemployment, and how they signal phases of the business cycle. First, real GDP measures the total value of goods and services produced in a country adjusted for inflation. It helps us identify where we are in the business cycle. When GDP is rising, we're in the expansion phase. Demand grows and businesses invest and hire more. If GDP falls for two straight quarters, it indicates a recession. Firms may scale back operations and reduce headcounts. A rebound in GDP signals recovery, where businesses begins reinvesting and hiring again. Tracking GDP trends is vital for aligning strategic decisions with economic momentums. The second measure is inflation, tracked by the Consumer Price Index. High inflation suggests an overheating economy, which costs rises and businesses may need to adjust pricing or cut spending. The low or stable inflation supports predictable planning and stable growth. Deflations, on the other hand, indicates weak demand, which can hurt profits and delay investments. Understanding CPI trends allows companies to plan for cost inflations and cost fluctuations and customer price sensitivity. Now, the unemployment rates reflects the percentage of people actively seeking but unable to find work. Low unemployment means a strong economy but creates talent shortages and wage pressure. High unemployment suggests a downturn, often leading to layoffs and reduced consumer demands. Even when unemployment is low, underemployment, where workers aren't fully utilizing their skills, can signal inefficiencies that hurt long-term productivity. These labor trends helps organizations forecast hiring needs and wage expectation. So, why do these indicators matter for businesses? Well, they shape decisions in five parts. For strategy, GDP informs when to expand or consolidate. As for pricing and cost, inflation trends may help manage margins. And for talents, unemployment guides wage offers and hiring strategies. For risk management, monitoring the cycles lets firms prepare for downturns or position for recovery. As for forecasting, they help predict market demands and consumer confidence. Let's now look at tariff through the ADAS model using Singapore's economy as a case study. At first, Singapore's economy is in a long-run equilibrium. Demand, supply, and price level are stable. But when the US imposes tariff, especially on Singaporean exports, aggregate demand falls due to reduced export demand, shifting AD1 to AD2. At the same time, production costs rise, moving the short-run aggregate supply left from SRAS1 to SRAS2. The result is a new equilibrium with higher price, which indicates inflations, lower output, and a move away from full employment. Now, if tariff persists, two things can happen. Policies may boost demand, shifting AD2 to AD3. Firms may adapt by finding new suppliers, shifting SRAS2 to SRAS3. The new long-run equilibrium recovers some lost output, but may still fall short of original potential. This reflects how prolonged trade tension can permanently affect economic capacity. Now, tariffs don't just affect one country, they reshape global trades. Now, trade volumes falls as we saw in the US-China trade war. Trade diversion occurs, rerouting trade to avoid tariffed goods. And retaliatory tariffs create prolonged disputes. Consumer prices will also rise, especially in imported goods, and supply chains are disrupted, like Disney toys and apparel's prices rising due to the Chinese import tariff. Now, for global businesses like ours, this means higher costs, delays, and more complex sourcing decisions. Moving to the consumer level, why do people often choose unhealthy food even when they want to eat healthier? First, for framing effects, Unhealthy foods are often marketed as indulgent or comforting, influencing our perception of value. Status quo bias, people tend to stick with what's familiar and convenient even if it's unhealthy. As for preferences reversal, we might plan to eat healthily, but in the moment, the more tempting options often wins. As for prospect theory, the pleasure of immediate gratification feels like a gain, while long-term health consequences seems distant and less urgent. This pattern shows that emotions and cognitive biases often overpower rational thinking when it comes to food decisions. Traditional economic theory assumes that consumers are rational and makes informed choices, but behavioral economics recognizes the real drivers. Cognitive shortcuts, emotional influences, and contextual framing all plays a major roles. Understanding these forces enables business to design better interventions, from reshaping menus to using nudges that guides people towards healthier and more sustainable choices. Now, moving on to development in AI and implications for inequality in the labor market. Starting with scenario 1, where generative AI reduces income inequality. These models assumes that AI adoptions drive job creation in high-skilled sectors, things roles like AI developer, data scientists, and machine learning engineers. Initially, we see the demand curve for high-skilled labor shift right from D1 to D2, as businesses urgently seek talents. This causes a shortage of workers at wage level W1, putting an upward pressure on wages. As wages rise from W1 to W2, more people are motivated to upskill, increasing labor market participation in high-skilled fields. A new equilibrium, E2, is reached where this higher demand meets the available supply, raising the employment level from Q1 to Q2. Now, let's consider the supply side. The initial supply curve is S1. Thanks to non-monetary benefits like improved job satisfaction, work-life balance, and reduced stress, more workers are drawn to these sectors. This caused a rightward shift in supply curve from S1 to S2. As a result, the number of high-skilled workers increased from Q1 to Q2, even while the wage level remains stable at W1, meeting demands efficiently. Overall, this scenario demonstrates how the substitute effect is greater than the income effect. Higher wages and better work condition encourages people to enter high-skilled jobs, helping to narrow the wage gap and reduce inequality. Now, moving on to scenario 2, where AI increases income inequality. Here, AI automation displaces low-skilled workers. For example, chatbots replacing customer service reps or machine taking over retail or manufacturing tasks. Initially, the labor market is at equilibrium E1, where the demand and supply for low-skilled jobs intersects uh, at which W1, with Q1 workers employed. But after displacement, the supply of low-skilled workers increases as more displaced individual floods the job market. This shifts the supply curve from S1 to S2, increasing available labor. However, demand for these roles doesn't increase, and as a result, wage falls from W1 to W2. The number of people employed drops from Q1 to Q2, while the gaps between Q2 and Q3 represent a labor surplus, leading to higher unemployment and underemployment. This situation occurs because the substitution effect is less than the income effect. Even as wage falls, people are unable to or unwilling to move into new roles quickly, and inequality grows. Now, considering the non-monetary impacts, job insecurity and low job satisfaction push workers to exit the labor market altogether. The original surplus curve S1 shift left to from S1 to S3, showing that fewer low-skilled workers are even willing to take these jobs. The quantity of workers drops from Q1 to Q3, but since demand remains low, wages continue to stagnate or decline. Ultimately, this deepens inequality as low-skilled jobs become less viable economically and psychologically. So, what happens over the next 5 years? We expect demands for high-skilled workers to rise, especially in AI and tech sectors, pushing wages up, potential equalizer. But without strong policy responses, low-skilled workers may face worsening prospect with higher unemployment and stagnant wages. As income inequality widens, we need to invest in reskilling programs, education, and potential universal basic income to support displaced workers. Generative AI can enhance productivity, but without thoughtful governance, it may also entrench inequality. Now, thank you for listening, and I hope you learn from these takeaways. Thank you.